Which defenses should you target and who should you avoid for Week 6 of the NFL season? We'll go over all of that in this week's episode of Pick 3 DST. As a reminder, these are not my full weekly DST rankings. If you want to check those out, you can click the link below, which will take you to the article that I update as the week goes on. We get weather updates and injury concerns and things of that nature. And since we are recording this week's episode on a Monday, I do encourage you to check that article out as the week goes on to make sure those rankings are fully up to date. We're going to start this episode as we do every week with our accountability check in what was a pretty good Week 5 for us. Our stud defense, the Vikings, finished as the second-ranked defense in week number 5 with 16 points scored. And our solid defense, the Packers, finished as the 5th-ranked defense with 13 points scored. The defense that we faded, the Miami Dolphins, was a defense I said would score about 5 or 6 points, and I didn't like them as a top 10 option, and they finished with exactly 6 points. And again, since we are recording this on Monday, our sleeper defense, the New Orleans Saints, has not yet played. But again, even 3 out of 4 on this week is pretty good, so we'll hope to carry that over into Week 6. My sleeper defense for the week is the Green Bay Packers. Consensus right now has them down at 20th, and I have them as my 4th-ranked defense of the week. Now, obviously, the consensus rankings could change as the week goes on, but I think this is in response to the Packers playing an Arizona Cardinals team that looks pretty good and just upset the 49ers. However, that really doesn't turn me off of the Packers defense this week. The Packers defense has been an elite unit so far in 2024. They ranked 1st in turnover rate, 6th in opponent scoring rate, and they're tied for 6th in sacks. Now, while the Cardinals' offense is good, they rank 16th in fantasy points allowed to opposing defenses. So we have a really good defense in an average matchup, and to me, that keeps the Packers as a top 10 play this week, and I'm banking on what I've seen from their defense so far to put them inside the top 5. So if you have the Packers, I would not be looking for another option this week. Now, before I get to my solid defense of the week, pause this video, comment below. Let me know which defense you're rolling out in Week 6 or ask me any start-sit questions, and I'll get to those as the week goes on. My solid defense for the week is the Indianapolis Colts. Consensus has them down at 17th, but they are my 7th-ranked defense for the week. Yes, I do have some concerns about the Colts defense, but this is a really good matchup against the Tennessee Titans offense that still gives up the most fantasy points per game to opposing defenses. And even though the Titans are coming off a bye week, I don't really think that changes my perception of what they're going to do against the Colts defense. And this Colts defense is one that has actually put up solid fantasy points throughout much of this 2024 season. Right now, they rank 9th in turnover rate, 15th in pressure rate, and 15th in tackles for a loss per game. They also put up 11 points in Week 3, and they put up 8 points in Week 4. So they have had some solid games, and they played the last 2 weeks without their top defensive end, Kwity Paye, and one of their best cornerbacks in Kenny Moore. There is some talk right now that they'll get both of those guys back this week. So as of right now, I'm ranking the Colts as if Paye and Moore are both going to play in Week 6, and so I really like them as an option against the Tennessee Titans this week. My stud defense for the week is the Pittsburgh Steelers. Consensus has them number 1, and I have them number 1. I think you're going to see the Steelers and Bears at the top of most lists this week. So if you're looking for kind of a lower rostered option, I do have the Chargers as my 5th-ranked defense, and I think that they're a pretty good option for this week. But I wanted to highlight the Steelers because they are far and away the top option in my season-long rankings right now. Right now, the Steelers rank 4th in opponent scoring rate, 6th in turnover rate, and 10th in pressure rate, and they're going up against a Raiders offense that was likely going to be without Davante Adams. As if that didn't make the matchup good enough, the Raiders switched from Gardner Minshew to Aiden O'Connell in the second half of this week's game, and O'Connell looked worse than Minshew. O'Connell was also worse than Minshew in so many offensive metrics last year. So if this is a switch that the Raiders are going to stick with going into week number 6, I think that makes the Steelers an even better option. So if you have the Steelers on your roster, you're obviously firing them up with supreme confidence. Now, before I get to the defense I'm fading for this week, make sure you like and subscribe to get Pick 3 DST every single week and all the rest of our fantasy football and football content over at NBC Sports. The defense I'm fading for this week is the Atlanta Falcons. Consensus has them at 6th, and I have them down at 15th on the week. Now, obviously, a ranking of 15th means that the Falcons are in play in deeper leagues. However, I really do not buy them as a top 10 option this week. Since the Panthers made the switch to Andy Dalton 3 weeks ago at quarterback, they have given up just 4.7 points per game to opposing fantasy defenses, and most of that came just this past week against the Bears. They gave up just 2 points to the Bengals and -2 points to the Raiders in the 2 weeks before, and this Falcons defense is far closer to the Raiders and the Bengals in terms of talent and fantasy production than they are to the Bears. Right now, through the first 5 weeks, the Falcons are dead last in opponent scoring rate. They are 29th in pressure rate. They are 20th in turnover rate, and they have just 5 total sacks in 5 games. The matchup is a good one, but this is a Falcons defense that has averaged just 5.4 fantasy points per game so far this season. So we have a below average defense in just an average matchup, and that's not really something that I want to be targeting outside of the deepest formats. So I'm going to fade the Falcons as a top 10 option this week. That's going to do it for this week of Pick 3 DST. As a reminder, click the link below to get my full weekly DST article, which I'll update as the week goes on, and like and subscribe to get all of our fantasy football and football content over at NBC Sports. Good luck on Sunday.